All right. Well, I am here tonight with Whitney Shay.
Hi.
Yeah, we're coming at you live tonight. Well, kind of. We're just chit-chatting about the singing life. Our industry has taken a really, really big hit, just like most everybody's industry. But we just wanted to get together and kind of talk about that singing life pre-COVID and what everybody's doing now, and just kind of hear what the good news is. What is good? So I have the unstoppable Whitney Shay, hashtag busy little singer, with me tonight. Whitney, you are a four-time San Diego Music Award winner, including 2019 Artist of the Year and 2019 Blues Music Award nominee. And you aren't just popular here in the States. You've been touring around Europe and South America, killing it out there. Your latest release from on Ruf Records is Stand Up, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard Blues Album Charts. No biggie. And reached #1 on the Roots Music Report Blues Albums chart. And not only that, but the industry is calling you a future blues icon, one of the best things in soul music, and the epitome of a rising star. That's pretty good. Those are some
Wow.
pretty good accolades.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah. But it's well deserved. I mean, you've got songs all over the place too on shows like NBC or on networks, NBC, HBO, Bravo, BET. You even have one on Tyler Perry's A Medea Family Funeral. Nice.
It's pretty crazy when you
Yeah.
when you read it all.
That's awesome. Well, I'm telling you, I follow, your career, and I'm always just so incredibly, you know, inspired and excited and rooting for you, and it's really, really cool to see everything that's happening for you. So what else are you up to? What are you doing right now? Any projects or any shows coming up we need to know about? What's up?
Yeah, so it's been really cool. I've had the time to kind of get recording, and I've been setting up my home recording studio. So I've been able to do so far like three or four different recording in place things. I just did a project about a week ago with it's called the San Diego Online Digital Big Band. So my friend Chaz Cabrera organized a whole big band, and everybody recorded their own parts separately. He wrote the arrangement and videoed it, and then he mixed and mastered the song and the video. And I mean, that's quite a feat when you have 20 people in a video trying to mix all that together. So he did a great job. And then my writing partner wrote this beautiful song a few weeks ago called You're Not Alone, which was celebrating first responders and essential workers. And we got a lot of photos from our friends who were nurses, and we made a video of that. And we had people from Brazil and the UK and all over. I should have asked you to sing on it too,
Oh,
but
next pandemic.
we had a lot of stand-in friends. Our friend Rebecca Jade was on it too. So it was a really cool project, bringing people together. And I've done, a couple other projects. And so, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing with the time right now is working on little projects here and there. My writing partner and I also meet. We meet virtually a
Mhm.
couple times a week for writing. We kind of took a couple weeks off, but we're getting back into it again starting next week. So it's been nice to have the time to create and I guess
Mhm.
the headspace to create because we're so busy normally. I mean, I know that you don't always have that time unless you carve it out. So
Yeah.
having this time right now has been nice to just enjoy the creative process again.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
love that.
Speaking of that, you posted a really, really heartfelt post on Facebook sometime this week. And you were just talking about your perspective on, how you're feeling about things going on around you. Maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, it's been, it's an interesting time right now because I feel like there's a lot of fear and anger and doubt going on in the world right now. Um, and I think it's really important to try to propagate positivity
Yeah.
and love right now because people are scared and there's, bad news every day and it's hard to, stay positive and stay motivated. And I really have enjoyed having projects to do because
Hmm.
I think that that's when I really do my best and feel the best is when I have stuff constantly going on. Um, and so this has been very interesting for me because I'm always my hashtag is busy little singer. I'm always busy. So kind of having this time to reflect. First of all, it's been great to connect with loved ones, to actually have phone conversations with people. I think that is something that we all in the world needed,
Hmm.
that time to just breathe. So that's been wonderful. Um, but at the same time, like obviously, sometimes when you have too much time on your hands, you can start to get down and start to feel lethargic. So I think it's we have to give ourselves a break and we just have to be kind to ourselves and kind to everyone else. And I think it's too easy right now with, politics being so divisive. I think it's just important for us all to just be kind to one another and really and we realize how even though our job might not be essential, it
Hmm.
is essential right now because people are so desperate for an escape. They're so desperate
Yeah.
for, that creative release that music provides for a lot of people. And I feel super grateful for what we get to do every day, and especially now even when we're not working. I mean, we're still, connecting with people on Facebook, and you realize how small the world is through
Hmm.
social media. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm totally on the same sheet with you on that. It's just, I think we all have to remember that everybody processes different.
Hmm.
We're all in different places at different times, and I think the more we can just redirect our time and attention and our energy towards those things that really do matter. And believe me, I get caught up. I get caught up in, in the stuff and everything, but I think as the longer this goes on, I'm more often really trying to redirect that attention. I mean, um, we do in the music career, it can be an extremely busy life, and the people we love, we miss out on a lot of time with them. And
Hmm.
this is just an extraordinarily rare opportunity. I mean, I have two kids, so I'm getting time with them that is like, priceless. It's priceless. So, there's a lot to be grateful for. And the fact, as musicians, I mean, imagine this happening 20 years ago when we didn't have this technology.
Right,
What would
exactly. It gives
what
us a
would we
totally
do?
new platform. I mean, and like you said, it's so interesting right now. I started dating somebody, back at the end of last year.
Hmm.
And right when we started dating, I went on a 6-week tour.
Yeah.
And then I came home, and then within 2 weeks, this happened. And so it was kind of interesting because this whole year I had slated out to be touring. And so starting a relationship during that time was always going to be, we'd see how it went.
Yeah.
But I will say, if I didn't have that relationship and the other relationships around me to keep me sane right now, I mean, that has been the amazing thing is having time to spend with somebody. And I figure, hey, if you can get through a 6-week tour and a pandemic where both of us lose our jobs and we still like each other, that's a good sign.
Yes, it is. It's a good test. How's he doing so far?
He's doing well. He's doing well.
Good. Oh my gosh. So you had some really major plans before all of this hit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, unfortunately, a lot of things kind of came to this screeching halt. And your career is just like on fire, and to have that momentum is so important with what you do. So how did that feel for you, having to cancel that stuff, and what are your feelings about it now that you've had time to handle
Yeah.
it?
It's a very interesting, it's been the process. What do they say? Like the 12 stages of grief, or I can't
Yes.
remember how many of it. Um, so at first, it kind of bummed me out. Um, I think, to be honest, through this whole process, I have been sad about that, but maybe like I've been more sad about, places that like here at home that have closed. Although
Mm.
like my tour canceling is awful, and I was so excited about it. Maybe because I didn't have those physical locations like embedded in my memory. Like I wasn't as attached to those, I guess.
Yeah.
So like I think it's more like places that I performed here, like the Belly Up, canceling my CD release show. That was a big thing. I mean, that was I was really sad about because, you worked so hard on this album and it was doing so well and had all this momentum, and then to not get to celebrate that. That was a bummer. But at the same time, I always think that the universe teaches us balance. And so I'm like, okay, well, there's nothing more like life teaching you balance when your album is Billboard #1 and you're applying for unemployment at the same time. That's
What a thing.
if that isn't life teaching you balance, I mean that's the truth.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I mean, the wonderful thing is that people have been reaching out. I mean, people have still been buying albums. Stuff is getting rescheduled till next year. So, I mean, we're gonna get back to it. I've been very bummed about it, but at this point, I feel okay. I mean, I try to. I think the thing is I try not to dwell on it too much because it's out of our control, unfortunately. And some days I wonder. I'm like, I've lost all this momentum. Should I be doing more? Should I be, working harder? What should I be doing right now? But I think, like I said, it's so out of our control
Mhm.
that you can't get too caught up about that kind of stuff. I mean, yes, it would be wonderful to be touring right now, but we have to stay safe, first of all, and that's the biggest priority. And I think the thing is, that like I said about social media, this has really shown how small the world is too, because I have international friends and everyone is going through the same thing at the same time. I mean, to talk to a friend in the UK and Brazil and France, and everyone is dealing with the same thing. I mean, that gives you some sense of satisfaction in a way that we're all connected, I guess, and that
Yeah.
it's not just us going through it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I make no predictions on when we'll be back performing live. I mean, I think that's, there's a lot around that. And it is most important that, it's a safe
Right.
environment for everybody involved to go back to that. But the prediction I have that I'm kind of putting a lot of hope into is that by the time um, live venues are opening up, and we're it's more feasible to do this stuff, people are going to be so hungry for it.
Yeah.
They really, really are. People are going to want to go out and experience music live again. So I have no doubt that you'll pick up right where you left off, and that
I
fireball
hope
will
so.
just keep
I
on
have
rolling.
Universe, I have a tour in Europe scheduled for the fall. Please don't let that cancel.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I had a friend say to me sometime, like maybe first, maybe the last week of February or the first week of March, and she asked me, she said, "Well, have you guys had any cancellations because of this thing?" And I was like, "No, it's not
Yeah.
that bad." And then like days later, it's crazy.
I got back from Europe March 1st.
Yeah.
I got back
Oh my
and they
gosh.
closed like I finished that first tour, which was awesome, but they closed the borders. I know like our gigs and things started to shut down March 13th, I think was like the last day, like when schools were closing and everything was starting to close. So it was like literally like 12 days later after I got back. And my grandmother was asking me like, "Oh, are you worried about?" And I didn't even know anything about that at that point. I hadn't even heard anything. But it was interesting because there was another musician who's on the same label who had a tour right after us. And he started that tour and he was about a week into a 30-day tour and it was falling apart while he was there. I mean, he had to come back and they all had to quarantine and I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes I just wake up and you forget about it almost. And then I don't know, you're reminded you go out for a walk and you see masks and and that's just the new reality that we're gonna have to adapt to. And it's interesting, George Varga from the Union Tribune called me the other day and he was talking about, concerts and what they're going to be like, now and are things going to change and drive-in concerts and he was like, how are you going to feel if people are coming into a venue and getting their temperature taken and wearing masks and socially distanced? And I'm like, well, I mean, how do you answer that question? It's not like I'm gonna love it, but my answer is well, we'll adapt because we have to, because the choice is if we don't, then we find another career. And at this point, I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet because I just love what we do so much, and so we'll have to adapt.
Yeah, we will adapt. I mean, when you think throughout history, all of the cycles and changes that society's gone through, and music has always been, an important part of that, and it has survived, and people are still thriving, and we'll be back at it, and it could be drastically different, but music's music.
Yeah.
No matter what the conditions are around you, that's the real kind of
I
hard
don't know
part.
about your voice, but my voice is feeling great with all
Yeah.
this rest now.
Yes, yes. Yep, taking a break from putting so much makeup on, and my hair is
Oh.
very depressed about this whole thing. But yeah, I'm saving a few bucks on makeup.
Your hair looks great, girl. My roots are about your hair color now.
Oh my God. Well, we're gonna pretend this right here is the light shining brightly on my head right
I don't know what you're talking about. All I see is lighting. Mm.
now. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so with all of your success, obviously this did not happen overnight for you. This has been a long time in the making. Um, Tell me a little bit about your background getting into music. Like, what was your schooling or training or mentorship, and what do you think are some of the turning points for you?
Sure. So I started doing theater really young. I started doing musical theater. My first play was when I was 3 years old.
Oh,
Um, and I did children's theater growing up. And let's see, I went to college for theater as well. I got my degree from San Diego State in theater performance.
awesome.
And I was with an ex, and I moved to Denver, Colorado, the only other time I've lived outside of San Diego. I moved there for 3 months, and we broke up. And we had been planning, he was an actor, we'd been planning on moving to New York and, trying the whole Broadway thing. So I came back, and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my life now? And I started looking through Craigslist and I found a pianist who was looking to start a jazz duo with a singer. And right around the same time, I started swing dancing. And so some of my first gigs were playing for swing dances. And then shortly thereafter, there was a venue downtown called the Gaslamp Speakeasy. And they also had an ad on Craigslist. And they were like, oh, we're auditioning bands. So we went and auditioned, and they were like, great, we want to book you 4 nights a week. And I was like, oh, we were both like, that's a lot. So we're like, how about three? So my first regular gig, which was pretty soon after I started, gigging as a musician, was 3 nights a week, 4 hours a night as a duo. So myself and a
Oh,
pianist.
wow.
So as you know, that's a lot of
That's a
singing
lot.
and a lot of material. So, I mean, I guess I had no choice of like just get it together. And so that was kind of I guess, cutting my teeth, really doing it. And And so I started doing that, and then I started, playing with different musicians. And a few years later, I met Robin Hinkle, and him and I have been working together over the years. And then we were playing at a festival in Dana Point, the Doheny Blues Festival, and a good friend of mine who's been kind of a champion, he's a blues promoter, been a good friend of mine for a long time. He had some musicians staying with him from Brazil, and they played the festival the day before. And so he was like, you got to come see this girl. So he brought them to come see me. Then a couple months later, my good friend now, Igor Prado, messages me and said, how would you like to come to Brazil and sing? And that was 2015. And now I've been back there 6 times. I was supposed to be there in June again. And I love Brazil so much. So that was kind of my first foray into like working internationally. And then last year I did my first, going back. Sorry, there's so many things. It's hard to remember it all. So then I guess the next big thing, I decided to do I had done one record in 2012 with a great producer, Archie Thompson, and we made that record, and it was kind of when I was first starting out. He was looking to get into producing. And so him and I have worked together on and off over the years and gotten a lot of placements, and he writes great songs, and we've had a great partnership. But I really wanted to get more into songwriting and kind of expressing myself as an artist, I will say, because I never considered myself an artist before that, because I'm like, I'm not singing my own songs. I want to sing original songs. So in 2018, I went up to the Bay Area and recorded with kind of a well-known producer in the blues and kind of put together kind of an all-star team for this album. And it got reviewed all over and got a lot of great response. And then I got a Blues Music Award nomination. And then when I did that album release concert at the Belly Up in 2018, a booking agent from Germany actually came to that show, which is so random. And he told the head of the label that I'm with, Ruf Records, about me. And so I met with Ruf last January when he was here for the Grammys and signed the contract in May, and then recorded this new record in October in Austin, Texas, which was an amazing experience with all super high-level Austin musicians. And then was about to start this big world tour with the Ruf Records Blues Caravan, which was 80 to 100 shows throughout the US and Europe. And so that started in February and was supposed to go till November, but obviously some stuff has shifted. So I think that's all the things.
Yeah. This is like it's one of my favorite things to talk about, especially with younger singers who are just kind of getting into the scene or want to or are considering it. And I love to talk about the fact that one thing will lead to another, lead to another, will lead to another. And you just got to let it. And I think putting too much pressure on yourself really, really early on in your career to really define what your genre is and your niche and your, like map it out too far in advance. You just don't need that kind of pressure, because ultimately things are just going to unfold the way they do. But you've got to stay in the hustle constantly. Yeah. You've got to constantly be working on your craft and, being a go-getter about it. And it sounds like that's really kind of how things played out for you.
I mean, yeah, the thing is I was raised by a single mother, and she had her own businesses. Mm-hmm. And so I always I have known the value of hard work since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So, and especially growing up with a theater background, if you're in theater, you're not late, and, there's always 5 people who are looking to take your place, And it's funny because musicians, we like to complain about not getting paid a lot, but actors get paid even less. I can tell you that for sure. There's a reason why I didn't make a living as an actor, and I changed to music and looked to shift. I mean, I still love it, but my point being is that really taught me the value of hard work. And One of my acting teachers in college told me that, you have to learn everything that you can. This goes back to what you're saying about genre, and because that'll just make you more versatile. And I think that for me, like, over the years, I've done a lot of different gigs. I've done played with a lot of different people, and you always just try to be like, easy to work with, and just show up on time and do a good job. And I think that that is, to me, far greater for your career and your reputation than being talented, because there's a lot of talented people, but not everybody has that drive. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people who are way more talented than me, but they don't have that desire to push, and that is something that will really help you progress, because it's a hard life. If you want to make it a living as a musician, it's a constant hustle. You constantly have to, be your own booking agent and accountant and God, so many different things. Scheduler, like with all the band, and music director and social media director. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, we love it. We wouldn't do it if we didn't love it. But I think that people sometimes expect things too early, like you said, and it's so easy to look at social media and be like, oh, why are they doing this? And even I'm guilty of that sometimes. And Carissa Schroeder and I have had conversations about that. Like, she said that for a while, Rebecca Jade and I, she had to unfollow because she was like too trying to compare herself,
Oh, yeah.
and her
Yeah.
journey. And it's easy to do that with social media, but I think
Totally.
instead of doing that, if we're just like, wow, that's awesome for her, and we're like, but we realize that we're all different. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, is you're going to eventually find your own unique thing. I mean, for me, I tried a lot of different things, and I figured out, I guess, my own niche. I mean, I wasn't setting out like, I'm going to be a blues singer, that was never the thing. And I still don't even consider myself a blues singer, but it's just from all the hard work and the time and developing my own niche. I mean, that'll come with time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, amen. I can't tell you how important I think those points are that you made about the professionalism behind it, and taking those less sexy behind the scene things seriously, like your bookkeeping and handling money properly, handling your schedule, being where you need to be, when you need to be there. Um, because I really think when it comes down to it, I mean, your talent obviously is, you know, very important, but people want to work with people they like.
Yep.
You know, this is, a business full of sensitive people, and that's those are
Hmm.
the types of, emotions that we live on, and people want to work with who they like. And,
That's true.
if you're a bummer to be with and a pain in the butt, then I think you're going to be put down at the bottom of the list. And,
Yeah,
but I
but if
think
they
it's
remember you
amazing.
and think, "Oh God, they're such a light to be around. They're so joyful." I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big bonus in your book.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, when that reputation, follows you around. But I also love that you were you put these pieces together for yourself. You were out there like hustling, making it happen, not sitting around waiting for things to happen. And I do really think that that's a misconception right now in the industry too. I think having the world of online music is incredible, and I love that. I love that kind of, the landscape has totally changed on that. And there's all of these huge, YouTube stars and people making a killing with their music online. I love that, but I feel like there's a lot of up and comers who have that misconception that, they're just going to get a ring light and a camera and,
Be
and
discovered.
be discovered. And
Yeah.
I know at my core that those people that are, um, you know, hitting it big on YouTube and other platforms, they're working their butts off behind
Yep.
the scenes. It's not just because a video went viral.
And there's a lot of money behind it too.
There's a Money.
Usually the ones who are in pop music, I mean, there's been a lot of, like effort and money that went into that career, It's, I mean, and that's the thing is your career is an investment. I mean, and voice lessons and training and stuff, that's all the tools that you need to be able to have a sustaining career. Because I mean, it's one thing to just be a flash in the pan, but if you want to like work and keep working and keep consistent, I mean, you need to have all those tools in your belt.
Yeah, yeah. And when you start surrounding yourself with those people too, um, those are the people that are going to be the most instrumental in getting you, where you want to go, you know, and just, I think we've got to put a ton of stock in our relationships. I mean, I think we just need to do that in life in general.
Yeah.
But, in the music career, I think you've got to just really be so mindful of the way you treat people um, in front of them and behind them.
Yeah, that's wow. That's a beautiful. That's a beautiful statement for sure.
It's a small world in these
You know,
days.
I went just kind of going back to what you were saying about like, people thinking they're going to be YouTube stars and discovered. It's interesting also when you think about like people are like, "Oh, I just need a manager," "Oh, they're going to book me, they're going to do all this work." Well, I went to a conference in Nashville, and I mean, the great thing now is there's so many resources for young musicians too. Ari Herstand has a great book called "Do You Have It?"
No, I
Oh, I thought you
don't.
were gonna pull it. I thought you were gonna be like, "Oh, here it is." He's got a great website and a great book, "How to Succeed in the New Music Business."
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
okay. I
but
know the name. I
but
recognize the name. Yeah.
but I went to he spoke at a conference that I was at a couple years ago, the CD Baby conference, and CD Baby is a great resource.
Yes.
But that conference was great because they had people from YouTube and all kinds of different panels that you could go to. And one of the best panels that I really enjoyed was an artist management panel with an artist manager from Nashville,
Hmm.
kind of a boutique management company. And she was talking about like, you don't need a manager until you have something to manage. And a manager is not going to do everything for you. It's not just like, oh, now I can hand it to you. No, there's like very specific things that once your career gets to a certain point, then you need a manager to help you and to, guide you. And a great manager can do great things for you. But, you have to do a lot of legwork before you get to that point that
Yeah.
somebody is, and same with the booking agent, to be able to get like a big booking agent to be booking, big clubs and big festivals and things like that, to be on a roster, a talent roster of a big booking agency, you have to be doing a lot of shows on your own and selling tickets on your own and do a lot of legwork. I mean, Lizzo is a perfect example. I've seen some stuff about her and she was like talking about sleeping in her car and and how many shows and tours she did before she got to this point. I
Yeah.
mean, yes. Another band I love, Lake Street Dive. I mean, they're doing really well now, but they've been together for over 10 years and
Yeah.
they've been touring and doing all kinds of stuff. So it's just, it takes a lot of time.
Hmm. It does. And I think there's so much value too when you're handling that business on your own, even when it is, extraordinarily hard. But when you understand all those different facets of your business, when you finally get to a place where you can, put those responsibilities in someone else's hands, as somebody who's, better connected or whatever, I think you're less vulnerable to being
Taking
taken
advantage
advantage
of.
of because
Yeah.
you've been at the reins before, and I think you wouldn't be as easily um, ripped off or
And
whatever.
it's easy to, I mean, there's a lot of people who are going to promise you things and promise to I'm sure you've had lots of people over the years who've told you like they can do this for you, they can do this for you. And I'm thankful that like I had a no nonsense mother. Like anytime she would get a sales call, she's like, "What do you want and how much is it?" Like, "What are you selling?" That's like what she said to salespeople. So maybe because of that, I've kind of taken things that people say with a grain of salt until like I have a signature on a dotted line and I have something in front of me.
Yeah.
Because people are going to present you with a lot of opportunities. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take them, and you should always have faith that, things are going to work out. But at the same time, you do need to be a smart business person. You need to kind of know what you're signing up for. You know, when you're putting money into something, somebody to book you or manage you or do social media things for you, you need to know that they're vetted and that, you know, that you can trust them because
Yeah.
your brand and your impression that goes out to other people, you can't change that once that goes out there, you know? Like that's a good and bad thing about the internet. Anything you put out there is gonna
Fair.
be seen. You gotta be careful about that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's amazing. What do you think, being, where you're at now, having been through so much and put so much effort into it? I'm sure you've had to make a lot of mistakes. You've had to learn a
Yes.
lot of hard lessons. What would you say to somebody who has, worked on their voice, worked on their performance ability, and now they're kind of ready to like get out there and dip their toe in the professional pool? What would your advice be to them getting started, just in the business in general and maybe in songwriting?
Yeah, as far as in the business in general, I would say just, I mean, at first, when you're first starting out, take whatever gigs you can get, you know, go and audition and do things, you know, get yourself out of your comfort zone because that is, I mean, when you see performers, I just saw a post, I think a week ago that was like Beyonce rehearsed 8 months for her 2 hour show,
Yeah.
you know, and it's I mean, you have to perform so many times before you become comfortable on stage. And you need to put in a lot of, they say, what, 10,000 hours to master your craft. So you need to do a lot of that legwork. So at the beginning, you're not going to do like these amazing gigs every time. I mean, I've done some very strange gigs over the years. I did one of my favorite gig stories is I got hired for a corporate gig to sing at a Asian grocery store next to the frozen food section. Not that that was a bad gig. I mean, it paid well, but sometimes you do weird things. I
Yeah.
mean, I just do them because they're good experience and I mean, anything that can you can learn from, and I think that's the biggest thing is just taking every single opportunity that you get as a learning experience, you know. Whether it's meeting new musicians and working with new musicians. I mean, the great thing for me was being in a genre like jazz and blues, I worked with a lot of older musicians. So I really was fortunate in that like they kind of showed me the ropes, you know, and I was lucky to have those guidances because, you know, sometimes young musicians they're great, but like when you go to see a young band playing at Soda Bar, you know, and playing all original music, it's not the same thing as, you know, as like working a corporate gig, you know, for, you know, thousands of people. And both are valid. I'm not saying that like original music shows are amazing and valid and, you know, but I think that as a good musician, you should do both. You should have both experiences because then that'll show you. I mean, for me, I did a lot of gigs, but now I'm finding that I really want to write and want to create more. And I still want to do gigs. I mean, don't get me wrong, but now at this point in my career, like I'm ready to have an original voice. And some people will find that path differently, and that's great too. But I don't know. My recommendation is just do as many gigs as you can, learn as much as you can.
Yeah, that's great advice. So on the songwriting thing, talking about finding your voice, what has your songwriting evolution been like? Was it easy? Were you just naturally gifted with this, or was it something that took you a lot of time? How did that play out for you?
So, I used to write like poetry and kind of freeform songs and stuff in high school. And then, like, I always kind of wrote, but it wasn't until a couple years ago, one of the, you know, like you said, you'll meet somebody and it'll just go somewhere. One of the people that I met when I was working at the Speakeasy Club downtown was a wonderful really good friend of mine and composer. His name's Adam Johnson. He goes by Adam J. Arrows. So he was actually working at the Shout House across the street, and he was the entertainment director there. So him and I became good friends over the years. He wrote a song, I sang on it. He did like an alumni concert, I sang on that. And we did like lots of projects together. And then we just started writing together. And he's got his degree in film composition. I mean, he writes country music. He writes all kinds of different stuff. So it was kind of with him, the process has been really amazing because we're both such good friends that we can be really honest with each other. Mm-hmm. So the writing process has been cool because I really have a collaborative partner. I mean, we do everything 50-50, where sometimes I'll come up with the melody and kind of like a lyrical section. You know, I seem to come up with hooks a lot easier, you know, than anything else, and I'll come up with a hook. And you know, unfortunately, which I will say this to all young singers, learn to play piano and guitar. Like, do it. Yeah. I don't, and I wish I did, and I'm going to use this quarantine time to practice piano because we should, but it's a super useful writing tool because for me, I mean, a lot of times thank goodness Adam is a good enough musician, and I have like good enough ears that I can be like, I'm hearing this, and then I'll sing it, and then he'll try to figure out what chords I want, and then I'll be like, not that, like, how about this? And eventually we'll figure it out. But it would be so much faster if I could just play like a simplified chord, and then he could expand on the voicing. That would make way more sense.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
But
I'm the same. I thankfully did dive in more with piano because that's grossly neglected area of my life and musicianship. Yes. So this was a good opportunity for that, but you're so totally right. It's one of those things where wish I had, paid a lot more attention to it, but it's never too late to
Yes, exactly.
to get going on what you need to do. But so do you have any shows, online performances coming up, or anything in the works that we should know about?
Well, I have some. I'm working on something. I don't have a set date yet. Technically, my album release is still on the calendar at the Belly Up for June, but I obviously don't think that that's going to happen. But the next shows that I have on the books technically are not until the fall right now. But I will be doing an online concert. I actually was in discussion with my band today, and so we're getting all that lined up. I know that KPBS contacted me too about doing kind of an in-studio performance. So, but we're figuring out how to adapt for all of that, how to do that. And I mean, I think that's an important thing right now is how can we gig and be safe, That's one of the reasons there's a lot of musicians who've been doing concerts all the time, and that's amazing, but I've been trying to err on the side of caution. Mm-hmm. So I did do a live stream show a couple weeks ago for a great platform called Can't Stop the Blues, and that was really successful. There was 15,000 views of that or something like that. There was a lot of people who tuned into that, and that was amazing. So I'm gonna do another one coming up. I don't have a set date yet. But yeah, this is seeing everybody do all their concerts and seeing Rebecca's and how great hers was the other day. Yeah. That's super inspiring to do it, but also I think curate the content so it's not just me sitting with my phone and trying to do that, but I think really doing these concerts in an effective and visually appealing and sonically appealing way. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important because that's going to be the future for right now. So we need to figure out how to make it good.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's going to, when you put something on the internet, like you said, it's going to be there for a while.
It stays forever, so you want it to be good.
So what are your socials? How can people find your music? Where
man. If I didn't have my thing mirrored, I could show this because I had to have it the other day. I wrote it on something, but now it's backwards. But it's it's WhitneyShay.com. Whitney Shay Sings is pretty much like YouTube.com/Whitney Shay Sings, Facebook.com/Whitney Shay Sings. Instagram.com/Whitney Shay Sings. And Twitter is Whitney Shay Sing because I couldn't have the S. There was too many characters.
Okay.
But everything else is pretty much Whitney Shay Sings. So.
Awesome. Well, I will put links in the comments so that
Cool.
everybody can check out your amazing music.
Oh,
And you've got to check out your YouTube videos because you're just an amazing performer. And
oh, thank you.
I look forward to you being able to be, back out on the stage again. But
You too.
yeah, in the meantime, just, make the best you can of this time and be creative and spend all the time with your loves. But it's been so great talking to you.
You too.
Yeah, I know that the technical aspect of this didn't work out exactly how we wanted to, but if you would, I'd love for you to come back at some point and we can go live for reels.
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we will talk to you again soon. Take care, okay?
Awesome. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.